Hello interwebs, welcome to Let's Fix Computers. I've got a Oculus Rift. What is this again? This is a Quest. I think this is a Quest 1 controller. It's a very common design, to be honest. Like the Quest 1, the Rift S, and I think the Quest 2 basically all have the same controllers. Might be slightly different revisions, but they're functionally the same controller. So this is the right-hand controller. So it has a grip, a trigger, 2 buttons, a stick, and the Oculus button there. And these are all touch-sensitive buttons as well, so it can detect when your finger is resting on the button as well as when you're actually pressing the button. And for those of you unfamiliar with VR, the reason why these VR controllers look weird like this is the sensor ring. And this sensor ring, this is actually partially transparent plastic, and there's a ring of LEDs around here, which the headset can see. So when you're holding the controller, the headset is seeing the controller, and by looking at the orientation of that ring of LEDs, it can determine where the controller is and what angle the controller is at. So that's why these things have the weird rings on them. And pretty much any VR controller you see is going to have some kind of variation of that on there. It's going to have some kind of pattern of LEDs that that either the headset or the lighthouses are looking for. So this particular controller has stick drift, which is a common issue on well, any controller really. And on these ones it's particularly egregious just because of the nature of the controllers. I've already done the left-hand controller from this set, and when I was testing the left-hand controller, the right one looked like it wasn't drifting badly. It was still within the dead zone, but it was very apparent that this one is not going to be far behind in stick drift. So I was like, let's just do the other one as well. And since I've just done one and I'm practiced, let's do both. So just a forewarning, these things are an absolute pain in the ass to take apart. There's no soldering involved in the repair. It's just a very difficult assembly job. And as with a lot of older controllers like this, this one already has a crack in the plastic ring here. And that means I'm going to have a slightly easier time disassembling this. But just be aware that if yours doesn't have any cracks in the ring, that's going to make your life harder. And obviously there is a danger that you will just put a hairline fracture in it while trying to take it apart. But given the fact that these controllers are kind of old, a lot of them have been dropped more than a couple of times just because that's how these things go. So with that in mind, let's start disassembling this. So I'm going to start by just taking the battery cover off, put that to one side, and we need to lift up this label here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a knife and I'm just going to pick under the label here and just peel that back. Because I'm filming something that is made of shiny black plastic, it's going to be difficult to get the lighting right, but I'll point out anything important. There we go. So now we've peeled that back. We've got 2 T5 screws there and there. So we'll just take these out. Now, one of the blessings of this controller is all of the screws in it are all T5 and they're all identical. So thankfully we don't have to keep track of where any of these screws go. We just have to keep track of, just make sure we put them all back in again, basically. So don't worry about keeping track of exactly which screw came from where. You've just got to remember where the holes are, basically. So with that removed, we should now be able to remove this back grip here. So I'm just going to grab a prying tool. I'm going to just gently give this some encouragement. Oh yeah, this bit here has to come out as well. So I'm just using some prying tools now just to pop this back grip off. There it goes. And there's no cables or anything holding this on. It's just an interference fit. So I'm just going to wiggle this until it comes off. Oh, there we go. Right, so there's our grip off, and you can see there that we've got the spring-loaded mechanism for the grip button. So the spring is all self-contained there. We've got a little magnet for the Hall effect sensor, and some rubber bumpers there as the stop point. And now for the next section of this, I'm going to remove the screws all the way along the bottom here to open this up. So we've got one on the end. We've got two down the side. And then we've got one on either side of the trigger here. And so next what we need to do is we need to remove this outer ring. Now this is the difficult bit. So what we need to do is the inside edge of the ring. If I hold that up to the camera, you'll see, there it is. You'll see that there's a seam there. There's a join in the plastic. So what we want to do is we need to pry up and we need to pinch those two parts in so the inner section of the ring can squeeze smaller and come out from the outer section. Now when we're prying under here, we need to be careful because there is a ribbon cable going all the way around the outside with that LED array on it. So we need to watch out that we don't mangle the LED array, otherwise it's all over. So I'm just going to start prying in under here and just popping this off. I'm going to be careful because I've slipped twice already. There we go. So I've just got to start on that now. Oop. And for good measure, the LEDs are closer to this front edge. So that's where the danger zone is. You can see one of the LEDs there. Whew. This other section is really going with a fight. I'm just going to keep trying to ease it inwards. Let's try working on the one that I'm winning with again. Yeah, that's ready to go. There we go. Okay, right, that is shifted now. So I think we're making progress. So now what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and twist the outer ring backwards so it comes toward my hand. And in order for it to do that, these inner sections need to go forward out the front. So you can see where this is already split that I'm getting some extra help here now. Oop. Oh, there we go. There's the outer ring off. Okay, there we go. So we're past the worst of it now. And you can see the ring of LEDs. So this is the dangerous bit that we've got to watch. And I have just caught it a couple of times here or there, but thankfully I haven't damaged it in a meaningful way. If you cut any of these bits and you lose one of these LEDs, you're basically done, I think. So yeah, watch out for that. Good. Okay. So now with this far in, we've revealed another 2 screws. So let's get those bad boys out. And with those 2 screws removed, this top panel will come off, revealing the circuit board. So now we've got the circuit board on view. You'll notice that all of the buttons that are touch sensitive have these little coils around them. So these little springs, that's just a little spring around a standard sort of rubber dome button. And that spring is an antenna, which is how it can sense when there's a finger there. That's an antenna forming a capacitive touch sensor. So that's how they make these things touch sensitive. And we've also got one under the actual thumbstick there as well. I think that's kind of interesting how they've done that. Before I did this one, I was very curious as to how they were actually making these plastic buttons touch sensitive. And that's the answer, basically. Just little coil antennas under each one. So this module here is what we're here for. So we now need to undo more screws. And I think we've now undone enough that we can try and flip this board out from the controller. Now, the main thing holding it up, we've got a battery connector there, which I shall just lever off. We've got another antenna wire clipping down on the front there, which I shall just move clear. And then finally, the spring for the negative contact is also attached to the bottom, and that's going to kind of pull out as we try and take this board out. Oops. Okay. There we go. That was a little bit unpleasant, that one, but we got there in the end. So as you can see, I've now managed to just flip that board out. And now I'm just going to open a locking connector on the back there. And that's going to allow the LED sensor wire to disconnect. And now we've got the circuit board with the stick module attached. And we can now just open the latch on that stick module. And that guy will just come right out. Whew. And there's our dead stick module. So I bought some more stick modules on eBay. I think I searched for Quest 2 controller ones, and they seem to be identical. I visually matched them in the picture, and this one is black, but they're exactly the same shape and size with exactly the same ribbon connector on them. And having done one of these controllers already, I can attest that they do work, even in the older controllers. So now we'll put that guy in. And now we're basically just reassembling again. Right, so I'm basically going to do everything in the reverse that I disassembled it in now. So I'm going to reconnect that little ribbon for the LED ring. And the hardest part about this first section is just threading the negative terminal spring back into the controller. So that's the bit you want to focus on here. We can't just mash this down. We need to make sure that spring actually threads in into the correct place. And I'm just going to do a combination of just nudging and pulling it through. I couldn't get the spring fully seated on the first one I did, but I did get it far in enough that everything was in place. And the battery seemed to go in just fine, so just do what you can, basically. Alright, I think I've done what I can with that. So I've got that far in enough that it's going to just squash into place. Now the last thing I need to do before I press the board down is the trigger spring, which you can just see there. That needs to fold back. So I'm going to grab my prying tool here, and I'm just going to press that back, all the way back on itself, and then push the board down on top of it. And I'm just holding this down with my thumb now. And we'll put the thumbstick in position. And now we just need to get a screw through that hole to hold everything down. Oh, that's not in position. Is that in? Nope. I lost the spring. Let's try that again. There we go. Second time got it. And now I've got those 4 screws back into the PCB, I'll just put the other wires back on here. Now we'll put this faceplate back on, so I'll just line up the A and B buttons. These are keyed, so they don't go in the wrong way around. And I'm just going to hold that flat, and we've got to thread the bottom edge in first, so put that into position. And just over the top like that. And now we'll get the 2 screws in on either side of the trigger to hold that plate in. And I'll just check the action on those buttons to make sure that everything is clicking, which it is. Nice. Alright, Now we can put the ring cover back on. So I'm going to thread the controller down through the ring like that. And then we're basically going to go in the reverse. So we're now now we need to get these two inner sections to overlap and then just muscle them in on the ring. So here goes nothing. And again, we need to make sure that all of these ribbons stay flat because, man, they want to jump out of place. Right. Just roughly dropped into alignment there. That's looking good. And now to solve this problem where we've got this bit just sticking out, I'm going to take a prying tool and I'm just going to pry the two apart, and I should just be able to get it to drop into place. Like that. There we go. And that is our ring back on. Now we can stick in the other two trigger screws. And then there were another 3 screws down the length of the controller. And now we'll put the grip back on as well. There we go. Last 2 screws. Whew. There we go. One controller with a nice fresh stick module on it. Right, that's it. That's our lot today, folks. Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope someone found that useful. VR controllers are annoyingly expensive to replace, so as annoying as this repair is, I think for a lot of people it's still cheaper than trying to track down new controllers. So yeah, I hope that's useful. And see you all in the next video. Bye for now.